kick things off. Thanks for waiting, everybody, and welcome this evening and taking the time to join us. My name is Elle Rands. I'm the Business Development Manager for Queensland and Northern Territory. I'm based in Central West Queensland on a cattle property south of Blackall. Tonight, we'll also be joined by my colleague Elizabeth, who is Head of Marketing. She will be handling letting people in to this webinar, but she'll also be online answering questions in the chat function box. So if you have any questions throughout, either feel free to raise your hand and she can unmute you, or you're more than welcome to pop your questions in the chat. We'd also love to know where everyone's joining us from this evening. So if you can pop that in the chat, it would be really great to get an idea of where you're all coming from. So tonight we are going to talk through the on-farm connectivity program and provide you an overview of one of our popular sensors, our wireless Trough sensor. The agenda tonight will be that I run you through the grants, followed by a demo of the My Farmbot platform that our customers, oh, perfect. We have a few people north of Winton, gained up, very good, a bit of variety. Winton's not too far from me. And so, yeah, I'll run through the tanks and the troughs and give a bit of an example. Then we'll move through to a Q&A function, which I said drop it in the chat, or there'll also be some dedicated time at the end where we can go through some stuff, or alternatively online, my contact details will be here, so I can give you a hand there. So the on-farm connectivity grant, which is the main reason I think most of us are here this evening, which is being offered through the federal government. It's an amazing opportunity that the government's provided for our producers to get Farmbot tech and other tech at up to 50% off. For once, it is a program that's actually very simple. Farmbot is an approved supplier, so we will be able to guide you through the process and submit the application. So for you guys, it's quite hands-free. So in terms of the current applications Farmbot has already submitted, we highly encourage you guys putting plans into actions very soon to avoid disappointment, just as it is a first case basis. So will be submitted and approved. Now we're just going to run through what the grant is, if you're eligible. So firstly, determining if you are eligible for the grant. So you need to be a registered business and have an ABN. You can apply with multiple ABNs. It just depends what you're looking to grab through the grant and really how much. The other part of it is you need to have an annual average pre-tax income from your primary production of between $40,000 and under $2 million. And lastly, need to be operating as an eligible primary production activity. Once we've determined that you're eligible, we need to determine the value of the grant. So the rebate amount will be up to 50% of the cost of eligible equipment. The minimum rebate amount is $3,000 and the maximum is $30,000. So for example, this equates to a quote of approximately $6,000 excluding GST of Farmbot hardware in this scenario. And the subscription fees or the annual fees are 10%. So just quickly before we jump into the process and the nitty-gritty, a bit of background on this. So this is an Australian government-funded program where they're providing $30 million over 2 years for primary producers to, I guess, support and help primary producers improve their connectivity and adopt on-farm technology. It's been broken down into 2 rounds of 15 million. So round 1 is available now. And as I said previously, it's allocated on a first in, first served basis for eligible producers and purchasers. So really just reiterating that to avoid missing out, we suggest submitting an application as soon as possible and getting the ball rolling on that front. So how can you apply? As I said, really simple. First, contact either Farmbot, or there are actually a number of local farming supply stores that are approved vendors as well. So essentially, you'd assess technology, decide what's going to suit your operation best or which hardware solutions you're wanting. We provide a quote. Once approved, we then submit an application on your behalf. After that, you will get an invite from the federal government to create a login, but then also add your primary producer details that would include your farm income declaration via the program portal. Applications then reviewed. They're saying around 2 to 3 weeks for the approval, which will then be notified, or the local your local supplier will be. And then you have 60 days to purchase the technology. So yeah, something to keep in mind. As I said, some of the local stores, which is really great, they have approval, such as Elders, Delta Ag and Norco, so they're approved suppliers, but also happy for you to reach out to us, and we can also give you a hand there. On the Farmbot front, the exciting news is there's lots of options and hardware solutions that are eligible for the grant. Some of the products that you could purchase include our water level monitoring, our Farmbot water level monitoring, our wireless water level monitor and extend, and what we've recently come out with, our light water level monitor. You've also got options for diesel level monitor, pump control, rain gauge, trough sensor, which I'll be talking about a little bit, and a few of our other add-ons as well. So that is the on-farm connectivity information and overview. Before I move through to a demo of the platform and the Trough, do we have any questions about this, about the on-farm connectivity that I can answer now? So feel free to, as I said, you can either raise your hand, or if you can pop it in the chat, I can answer for you. Otherwise, I'll keep going. There is also, I should acknowledge, the QR code down the bottom that you can scan, and it'll have a little bit more information for you as well. A common question that we have had around the rebate is the invoice portion, so and needing to chase payment for the rebate. So to answer your question, simply, no, Farmbot will invoice your portion, and then we will chase the rebate amount from the government. So therefore, no need to outlay the whole cost and then spend time waiting for the rebate, which can sometimes happen. Okay, well, I think I'm just going to keep ticking through. If you do think of any questions, like I said, pop them in. Usually when I would jump into giving a bit of an overview of Farmbot and our platform, I'd kick it off with asking the audience who could tell me what their water's doing right now, or how many of you are checking your water this week, just to get us thinking about that side of things. As we all know, checking water for livestock is one of those jobs that we just have to do. It's unavoidable. We also know that burst pipes or float valve issues and split tanks never happen when we're standing there. They happen at the most inconvenient times. You know, there could be one right now. How would you know? So we have a solution you can rely on for visibility at the tank and right up to the point of consumption through our wireless trough sensor, which I'm just about to jump into. So for anyone that isn't using Farmbot, we wanted to give you a quick overview of what the platform is and its and how it works. When you land in the platform, you see a bird's eye view of each of your watering points. There's a little icon that represents which sensor it is. Here you also it's displayed in a traffic light system. So green indicating everything's going fine, yellow warning there could be something going on, and red it's reached critical points. So we'd be suggesting to get out there or have a look at what might be going on. Let's check water tank. So here the tank is sitting at 85% and trending steady. The blue line is the water trending level line, and this is the data that the Farmbot's been capturing and how the tank is trending. The dotted lines are where our alert triggers can be set. So in the top right corner, there's 3 dots, and that's where your alert triggers can be set. We know each tank is different, and the data that you would like to capture when you want to be alerted changes from tank to tank. The top dotted yellow line is our high level alert. Then you've got your middle yellow line is your low level alert, and then your red dotted line, sorry, is your critical low. Where you can see there's the yellow dot or the red dot, that's when a notification has been sent, whether it's via SMS or email in near real time. When the tank reaches this point of these trigger alerts, within minutes you should be receiving an SMS or an email, depending on what you opt in for, to be notified. Here are where you can set the alert triggers, which I was referring to before. So tank high, low, and critical low. This is where you can also add your team members and notification management. So there could be a scenario where you only wanted some people to see these tanks, or different properties as well. So this is where that can all be adjusted. Jumping back to our platform, we are going to have a look at our trough sensor. So one of the reasons we're going to go through our trough sensor is just because we've been finding that producers are asking about it more frequently, wanting to understand the actual consumption levels of livestock, and trough. The wireless trough sensor provides producers with insights of trough water supply from the tank right up to the point of consumption. So getting that holistic view of what the watering points are doing. Here is an example, as I said, of the trough sensor. So you've got your blue trend line is your average consumption line, and your red line is your minimum consumption line. And this is how they are working together, I guess, and understanding the consumptions when there are the drops. Here, once again, you can set when you want to be notified at the levels, I guess, when the average levels are reached. So you've got your average level high and your average level low. And once again, you can set your notifications here. A bit of a breakdown here of how to read that graph we landed on. So you've got your normal consumption, and then high consumption, low consumption. So your low consumption would indicate little or no consumption. High consumption may be that the supply isn't keeping up with the demand, and a normal consumption is that the average level shows that the trough is recovering quite well. So that's ideally what we'd be wanting to see on our graph. How does it work? So I don't know. Oh, I might have to click through them. How does it work? So wireless range of 2 to 5 kilometers from a Farmbot monitor. So the Farmbot monitor essentially works as a communicator hub, not only to the connectivity, whether it's cellular or satellite, to feed back to the platform, but for the wireless devices to talk to. Essentially, when a Farmbot, a wireless device is turned on, it starts to look around to the closest Farmbot to connect to that to be able to communicate the data. It's a set and forget battery life of 1.5 to 2 years. Works with troughs of depths up to 125 centimeters. And one of the great things about the wireless trough sensors is they can be moved to multiple locations with these mounting plates. So really easy to move them around with your mob, I guess, into different locations. Simple as unscrewing it by hand and then screwing it back onto the platform. We've had these mounted on a few ways, whether it's on a cement float cover. We've also had a scenario where they run a bracket or a plate over the trough. It just depends on the trough design, shape and size, really. I'm just going to run through a quick example from one of our producers in Flemings, Queensland. They've gotten to the point where each watering point, whether it's a turkey nest or a tank, has a satellite water level monitor. All of the Farmbot monitors are connected to a rain gauge as well, so they're plugged into one of the ports in the Farmbot monitor. And they've also now installed a number of wireless trough sensors, so up 2 to 3 from each watering point where there's a Farmbot monitor, some up to 4 kilometres from the Farmbot monitor. So for this producer, having the oversight of livestock consumption levels is something they haven't previously been able to do or wasn't possible. The wireless sensors have provided them with insights of trough water supply from the tank right up to point of consumption. Just recently, he told me that one of the trough taps didn't get turned back on after cleaning it, and the trough, as a result, had run dry. So luckily, they were alerted by my Farmbot and were able to get their son to go out and turn it back on. The water level monitors and trough sensors send them alerts if the water level drops and stays low. So they can also see if the cattle have been using the troughs if the level drops and fills quickly. Perfect. Well, that's a wrap from me, guys. That's a bit of an overview of our platform, the trough sensor, and obviously the on-farm connectivity. Grant, now, do we have any questions now, or who's going to be game to pop something in the chat? Yeah, love to answer your questions while I'm online here. While you're thinking of some questions, I can run through a few that are commonly asked. So connectivity-wise is usually a question we get quite frequently. So we have our cellular option, but also our satellite option. It just depends what's going to fit best. With the cellular option, if you're a bit unsure, we'd be asking or recommending you stand next to the tank for 10 minutes. And if it maintains one bar the whole time, we'd be quite confident that the cellular option would work there. But if it's if it's dropping in and out of its satellite's probably your best option. Okay, so Rachel has a few questions. Might need to be unmuted, Rachel. Let me see. Okay, Rachel, you should be able to ask now.
Hi, how you going? Thanks very much for the presentation. I just had a question about how robust are the sensors if they're attached, like in your picture there before, it was just attached to the trough cover with sort of nothing else to protect it. Like, are you finding that they're getting damaged at all?
So in that scenario, let's see if I can jump back to it. That would normally, that's just giving you an image of what the technology inside or the hardware inside is. It actually has a hard, heavy-duty plastic cover that goes over the top of it.
Yeah, okay. So there was a picture
and screws on there.
There was a picture in another slide of a tank and a trough, and it looked like a new tank and trough. So that's what it looks like. It's just that was yeah, just wondering if the cattle damage it, but that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, no worries. I mean, I just popped it up another slide there. That's what the cover looks like that's sitting on that float cover. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they do lick and there could be some bite marks, but in terms of hardiness of it, we haven't had any dramas with them completely damaging it.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
No worries.
Elle, I just
So
see
Josie,
that there's, oh, great, you can see there's one from Terry and one from Josie there as well.
Yes, so I was just going to answer Josie. So are you aware of funding available for primary producers over 2 million turnover? At the minute, I'm not aware of any other funding at the moment. And in terms of this on-farm connectivity, there hasn't been anything announced around opening it up. That's not to say, I mean, we would really love to see or hope if this first round of the 30 mil goes well, like would love to see them potentially open it up. I guess it just depends what their requirements are and which area of the businesses the government are helping. I can certainly look into it more for you, Josie, and if I get some more information or hear of any other types of funding that can be used, I'll certainly can touch base.
Oh, okay, just so Elle, I might just jump in there as well.
Okay.
If there's also an option if you have multiple ABNs and your turnover is more than 2 million, you might be applicable under one of your other ABNs if it's less than 2 million. So we have found a couple of workarounds with that. So might be worthwhile either, if you've got an accountant or talking to someone to see if that's a possibility. And we'd be more than happy to discuss that further with you.
So let me get the chat back up. Terry, so what combinations of peripherals can be put on the one base unit? So I'm going to take a gamble here and assume you mean in terms of the Farmbot monitor, what add-ons or sensors you can have. So one Farmbot monitor can have up to 15 sensors. So you can have up to 10 wireless sensors. So that either be your wireless trough sensor or your wireless water level monitor. You then also have ports in the back of the Farmbot monitor. So that's where you can plug in. So you'd have the option to plug in your rain gauge, your pump control, your flow sensor, pressure line sensor, depending on what sort of setup you were wanting to do. You could also, for example, have the Farmbot monitor sitting on a tank and it's doing water level, and you might have two pumps next to it, and you also want to use two sets of the pump control as well, which can plug into the back of the Farmbot. So there's a few options. It just depends on the scenario and what you're wanting to achieve from that one Farmbot unit. But as I said, there's a few combinations that we can do depending on what it is that you're looking for. I hope that answers your question. So Roy has a question, is the revenue based on how much you can get off the grant? Example, 40K would be max of 3,000 versus 2 million would be 30,000. My understanding is in relation to the revenue or your pre-tax income, that won't I guess influence how much of the rebate you can use. If that's what you're asking, the minimum's either 3,000 for somebody who has turnover just under 2 million, or 40,000, or the maximum the same, maximum being 30,000 for somebody who has a turnover of 40,000 or under 2 million. Okay, good, I answered it. Okay, well, if there aren't, oh, okay. From Jacko, is the Trough sensor currently the only wireless sensor available? No. So the other wireless sensor available is called an Extend, and that's another water level monitor. It is mounted on top of a tank. It also has a sensor. You can't have any add-ons with it. Purely water level, and it talks back to the Farmbot monitor. On the platform, it appears as a water tank. Yeah, essentially it just gives you an option to in regards to the extend water level monitor, the option to potentially more cost effectively cover watering points if the distances, so within 5 kilometres and you have a good line of sight, you can have the ability to cover a few more watering points. Thanks for that question though. Okay, well, we might wrap things up. Thank you so much for spending some of your evening with us to learn more about the grant and more about Farmbot. If you do have any more questions, please feel free to reach out with my details here. Feel free to write them down or take a photo. Elizabeth will also circulate an email from us with a copy of this recording and important links to anything with the grant or what we discussed tonight. Really appreciate your engagement, and it's great to see we have a few people from all over.